Hello there, plant friends. My name is Haniya and this is my plant channel. I've been wanting to do this video for a while because I think it is an awesome tip to take your propagation game to the very next level. And that tip is how to propagate plants in fish tanks. So what plants can you propagate within your fish tanks? Well, I would start with any plant that's water loving that can indefinitely leave its roots in the fish tank. And in just a second, I'll show you exactly what that looks like. In front of me here, I have a 20-gallon fish tank that I've recently started within the last couple months, but you can already start to see the crazy root growth that's starting to happen. Inside of this tank, I basically only keep platyfish, which you can pick up at your local fish store or a Petco or a PetSmart. They're very common, very, very hardy fish, easy to take care of, and they love this root growth. And by that, I mean, I have tons and tons of babies, and I'll see if I can find some platy babies for you. They just grow like weeds. Here's some more crazy roots. I'm trying to see. There you go. There's a little tiny platy fry right there. And there's another platy fry. They're kind of all over the place, and I just let them do their thing. But that's not what I'm going to talk about today. I just want to talk about growing houseplants in fish tanks. And here, if you can see this root system is actually just a pothos that I stuck in there that had been overgrowing for quite some time, and he's still overgrowing, but his roots grow so incredibly fast that I leave him inside of this fish tank because he is an excellent filter. Look at these crazy leaves. And you'll notice here's my Swiss cheese plant, Monocera Addisoni, not Monocera. And he's also growing at quite a clip. I just put him in a couple weeks ago and he's already got tons of new leaves. Here is an anthurium, and he's not growing quite as quickly, so I may move him eventually. Not every one of these super water loving plants takes as well as I would like it to, but most of them do, and that's kind of exciting. And here we get to a crazier tank. You can see this philodendron burla marks just kind of getting insane. Here is a bird's nest anthurium. No, I'm sorry, I'm lying. This is a peace lily, quote unquote peace lily. It's another anthurium. Anthurium, whatever. And then here you can see my dwarfaricosum, some syngoniums that have made the mix. Here's my baby beta. His name is Seath. And I made a YouTube short about him quite some time ago, but he's been here for more than a year, I believe. You can see some Brazil philodendrons in there, some more Java ferns. This is a wonderful lucky bamboo. Here's a Hoya that I've just kind of stuck on top. His roots are not in this system, but maybe eventually. I'm waiting to see if he lets his roots go from this pot to the water. And if that happens, I may consider doing an experiment with him, but we'll see. And in the back, we have another philodendron. I believe this is a large philodendron hope that I may have started from seed a while ago. Here's my Cebu blue. Some more pothos. And I think we're ready to talk a little bit more about this. I've been waiting to do this video for a little bit of time, not because it's complicated to explain, but because it's sort of difficult to show. So I'm going to do my best to kind of show you both. But if you do some research on the nitrogen cycle, and I will link below to a couple of different videos on the nitrogen cycle in freshwater fish tanks, that will sort of start to point you in the direction that you want to go. Now, there are a lot of ways to do this, and this is just my way. I kind of just stick the plants in. Some people use medium or substrate to keep their plants in line. I don't, but you can grow a lot more plants if you do use a substrate. And I believe the channel Foo the Flowerhorn does a lot of this, so I will link below to the strawberry plants and potato plants that they use. Really what you want to do is basically go get a fish tank, which can be glass, and I would start small, maybe with like a little beta tank. Betas are super easy to care for, they're super adorable, and they need to be taken out of those tiny little cups that you see at pet stores. But basically what happens is you stick your plant in the fish tank water, And you may have like a small filtration system, like a bubble filter, a sponge filter, that sort of thing. And what happens is, as you feed your fish, that waste goes back into the water, and that might create ammonia and nitrite, which is part of this nitrogen cycle that I'm talking about. But your plant, through its roots, will start to uptake that fish poop with that ammonia and that nitrate and nitrite, and it will start to grow bananas. And I cannot tell you how insane this peace lily has gotten since I've put it in this fish tank, but it's in there with maybe 4 fish and a couple of snails. It does have some soil at the bottom of the tank, and it's capped off with some rocks, but he's just actually perched on top of a piece of wood. There are nutrients in that tank, and these fish are super messy fish. Catfish are super messy, but I feed them regularly, and that food just goes straight back into this anthurium, which is really exciting because if you have ever tried to grow a peace lily and you may leave it in a corner without a ton of light, then it likely will sort of start to fade and get kind of weak and stringy and gross, and you're like, oh no, like this guy was supposed to last anywhere, and that's not typically the case. They do need light, they do need a lot of water, and that is exactly what the fish tanks do accomplish. They keep it very humid around these plants, so you can grow any variety of humidity-loving plants like anthuriums, philodendrons, and pothos. And you can also just grow any super hardy plants that'll let their roots just hang out in there. One thing I will mention is that you do want some awesome lighting. In front of me here is a GE 48-inch daylight bulb, I believe. I've had this for a year. It's been pretty awesome with all of my plants, and they seem to just soak it right up. It is more than enough to power my plants and any of the aquatic plants living in the fish tanks. I just try to let a little bit of that light from the GE bulb to get through to the water. Now that I've explained the basics of how these tanks run and work, you need a light, you need water, you need a tank, you may need a bubble filtration system. Now I'm explaining what you actually need to feed these fish. So for my catfish and my tiger barb that I just showed a second ago, and I think there's like an autosynclus catfish in that tank too, I tend to feed bloodworms. And I do feed both frozen and dried, but that also goes for my platy tank with these guys who are all super hungry all the time. And you can kind of see some bloodworms here, which I'll just kind of knock over because it's kind of gross that they, and you can kind of see they're already going to town, and they will be little waste factories for these plants. They'll just poop it all right out. And bloodworms are a great source of food. You can also feed brine shrimp or mysis shrimp in frozen form. Beta's like, why am I not getting any other bloodworms today? I typically also will feed some spirulina or some other types of food, but really you could just feed flake or pelleted food as long as your guys are happy. And I know he's got red on him, but that is his coloration. He was super pink and white when I got him, but now I think because he's been eating a ton of bloodworms, he has now got some little red scales coming through, which is probably just part of his genetics. And I'm sorry, baby Seath. I fed you earlier, and I'll feed you again later today. Can you wait a minute? But really all you have to do is add more tap water that's been conditioned with some chlorine removers and you're good. You don't need to put soil or any sort of substrate on the bottom of the tank. You can honestly just stick the plant or the cutting in the tank and it should grow. What this doesn't work for are plants that can only survive maybe a month or two while they're growing roots in water. So if you have begonias or let's say ZZ plants or any other type of plant that just kind of sprouts roots in water and then needs to be planted, I would not leave them indefinitely in your fish tank because they're not going to be too happy like that. Well, please let me know in the comments if you have any questions. I am happy to answer them anytime, and like and subscribe if you thought this was helpful. I think every house should have a fish tank, honestly, because it's kind of cool to have your own little ecosystem. But if there's no room for that, I totally get it. And you can just have a little glass propagation vase with some water and some cuttings in it, and you're totally good to go. I happen to just like fish tanks because it gets your plants some excess nutrients and causes them to grow really huge and crazy. And what more could you want if you love plants? Thanks, guys.